Hello everyone, welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. It's your host Tyler, as always, and we're out here in beautiful Sulani, building what I like to call the Reef Modern. Yeah, you heard that right. I am now the proud owner of a Sims 4 expansion pack that is not city living. I'm super excited. I bought it in my bundle. We got immediately to work building this house. Now, this house is actually a rebuild of a house that I built in The Sims 3. I found a picture of it online. I thought it was super cool. This was, 5 years ago. Super cool. And so I decided, we're back in Sulani. We're in an island world again. Let's give it a shot. So the story behind this house goes like this. Sulani is changing. It's becoming sort of like a tourism destination, really beautiful beaches, all the sort of, wood houses, traditional wood houses on the island are being replaced by these sort of big, like, modern resorts. It's developing in, a pretty negative way. One day, a newcomer arrives in Sulani. Her name is Kamihina Osa. This is Kamihina Osa. Nobody really knows who she is. No one's heard of her on the island until now. One day she appears with a sackload of cash and a development plan. And she has a house commissioned on this little spit of sand that she decides to call the Reef Modern. It is this long, T-shaped house, just one, like, sort of wide band of a room stretching all the way across the sand, and a big, like, concrete spit going out toward the reef. Kamihina Osa, where'd she get all this money? Who is she? Where'd she come from? The story is that Kamihina Osa is actually a mermaid, right? I've never made a mermaid sim before. This is actually kind of sick. Kamihina Osa is actually a mermaid. She struck it rich one day, sort of swimming around, doing her mermaid thing, when she came across the shipwreck of a Spanish trading fleet from like the 1500s, loaded with gold. She had the gold appraised and became an instant millionaire. She decided, instead of being sort of like a good, child of the ocean, or whatever that trade is called, instead of keeping the money, bringing it to her people, staying out in the ocean, she decided that she wanted a tastefully good life. She wanted to just relax on the beach. She wanted to build her own house. She wanted to kind of do her own thing. So she took all that money and she put it toward a developer and had this house built on the sand. So, what's the deal with this house? This house, like I said, originally came from a plan that I saw online like several years ago. I built it in The Sims 3, and it is a really simple shape. It is sort of a modern, contemporary type house. I used a lot of the new island living furniture. I used basically all of it. The pack actually has like some really cool modern stuff, some really like sleek furniture that I like quite a bit. And honestly, the house is just a very simple design. On the left side of the house are all of the sort of like living areas, right? The living room, kitchen, dining room are all one long, massive room with these big windows facing out to the reef. It's separated from the other part of the house by a little lanai, which is covered. And then on the other side of the house, the sort of smaller section, those are like the private spaces, right? That's the one bedroom. There is like a little TV room and the bathroom. And then on top of the house, I don't know why the original architect did this, but I really like it, is just this solid concrete beam that just stretches all the way across the top of the house. I don't think it serves any, like, structural purpose. I really have no idea why it's there, but I really like it. I think it's really cool. So this house, in addition to just being sort of like a sleek modern house, has this weird, raw concrete beam just stretching all the way across the top. You see me putting that rock in. This is probably my favorite part of the entire house. I wanted this house not to blend in with the surroundings at all. I actually wanted it to stand out as something sort of not like indigenous to the sort of island, the look of the island. But I did sort of nestle it into this rock, which you can see peeking out into the bedroom. I really like this a lot. It makes it sort of look like the house is built in a little bit to the natural surroundings, and it also really reminded me of that movie Ex Machina, where they've got that like super cool modern house in the woods, and the living room just has this massive rock formation that like peeks out from the outside. I thought that was really cool. This house sort of was an opportunity for me to practice like the melding of indoor and outdoor spaces, right? So having that rock peek from the outside into the inside was one way to do that. I had these really, really big windows facing out onto the water so that all of the spaces on the inside sort of look out to the really vast spaces on the outside. I separated the sort of public and private areas of the house by this outdoor lanai that you have to go through, right? Your Sims are gonna be spending a lot of time outside when they're living in this house, which is kind of what I wanted. I wanted to sort of mix this contemporary style with like the necessity of like outdoor living when you're in a place that is like as beautiful as this one. So you see me just sort of decorating the reef a little bit here. I intended for this house to be, I don't know, I wanted it to have really, really beautiful views of the ocean, and so I thought that it all looked a little too bare on the actual like lot section of the water, so I kind of had to make my own reef using the stuff in debug, which I thought was pretty cool. I actually am really happy with the way it came together. You see that one part that sticks out into the middle of the water in the original design for this house by whoever the architect was, and in my version of The Sims 3, there's actually a pool there, and the pool was supposed to stretch all the way down into the lanai, like between the two sections of the house. This is something you were able to do in The Sims 3 because you were able to use terrain edit tools on water lots. In The Sims 4, you can't do that. So I tried for a while before I started recording to mess with the foundation heights and put in like an extra foundation and then a floor on top and lower the foundation all the way to the sea floor and then add the pool, but it wouldn't work. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to put a pool there. Who needs a pool though anyway? Like you've got the ocean right there. Like that's the best part. Like you don't need a pool. So that turns out to be more like, I don't know, like a dock, but there's no boat there. What I end up putting there is just two like lounge chairs and a little lamp, a little place to chill out and sort of look out on this big, vast blue ocean reef. Yeah, it's pretty sick. Yeah, it's really, really cool. You see me doing some of the landscaping on this house. The landscaping is pretty sparse. I did that mostly because this part of the land is just like all sand. So, I mean, you don't really see like a lot of trees on the actual sand part of the beach. You see them sort of like behind the beach and like the jungle and stuff. But I couldn't not put landscaping on this house. Like it would have been really, really boring. So I do landscape this house a little bit. I try to make it sort of, you know, put some like low-lying plants and shrubs sort of leaning up against the house, so I could sort of, you know, integrate that idea of the house being outside of the environment but also a part of the environment, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I wanted it to stand out a little bit. You'll also notice that I'm building this path right here, like that sort of leads up to the front of the house. Now when I say front, like this house doesn't have like a front door. I did that for a couple reasons. The first is that, like I said, I really wanted this to be sort of a test of melding indoor and outdoor spaces. So having sort of like a defined front door, this is the entrance to the house, seemed sort of like antithetical to that idea for me. I didn't want the house to have a defined entrance. I just wanted it to be a sort of a seamless, you know, transition from outdoor to indoor. So there are several like very large sliding doors. None of them is like the quote unquote front door of the house, which honestly I think is really cool. There's no, you know, the house isn't, the living spaces aren't so separated from the outdoors. And I did that by literally not putting a front door. The other reason I did that, and I talked about this a little bit in my last build, is because I love that sort of like contemporary, especially like mid-century premise of having total privacy from the like curb view of the house and then big wide open spaces from the back. So that's what I wanted for this house. My sim that I built this for, she is this sort of like, you know, this like rich newcomer. She's like new money on the island. And she also is like a mermaid. So she's got kind of supernatural. She's got this like sort of weird secret of how she got all this money. So I wanted her life to be like kind of mysterious to the people on the island. So I did that on purpose, putting sort of like no front door, very few windows on the sort of street facing side of the house, and then putting the back of the house, which makes really, really great use of those amazing ocean views, just putting these massive floor-to-ceiling windows the entire length of the house. I wish that I had floor-to-ceiling windows that were like 2 tiles wide instead of just 1. We have them from the base game, but I really wanted to use the windows from Island Living, so I've only got those sort of 1 tile windows, but that's okay. I think they ended up looking really good. I love the fact that there's just this huge like expanse of ocean that you can look out at from every living space of the house. You see me working on the kitchen now. I really like the way this kitchen turned out. I love those like sleek modern countertops that are just like white. They don't have any of that weird like that lip that goes up against the wall. They're just like flat, and they make great counter like kitchen islands. Yeah, the entire like feel of this house I wanted to be very modern and very sleek. Almost like the total opposite of a traditional like sort of wood, you know, like all the houses that are already built on the island, the ones that are sort of like on stilts and make use of a lot of wood. I wanted this one to be using a lot of sort of like raw concrete materials and brick, and instead of having like really sort of stylized furniture that has like a lot of like artistic influence from Polynesia or from, you know, wherever these islands are supposed to be inspired by, I wanted the furniture to be very sleek and, you know, single tone, like straight lines, you know, and in that way I wanted the house with all of its like very straight lines, its flat forms, just sort of not mesh with the sort of like curving and like arching forms of the environment around it. You know, it's surrounded by all these palm trees that are like curved and these big like beautiful lines of the trees and the sand and the mountains behind it, and then this house is just flat, right? It's just totally flat, straight lines. And that was sort of, you know, that was the sort of idea behind this house, is that it would sort of toe the line between the indoor-outdoor space and the sort of like modern and traditional, and the sort of like, you know, the environment around it and its own sort of character. You know, I wanted all these things to sort of be in conflict with each other, because I thought that was a cool background for the story, right? If the story goes that a sort of new sim with a boatload of money appears in the house and appears on the island and starts developing, like, this is a serious conflict. You know, this is something that happens in actual communities. This is a serious conflict of development and you know, tradition versus innovation, and what that means to the residents of the island. You know, this island, theoretically, like a lot of islands, is changing to the tourism industry and changing to, you know, the pressures of quote unquote development and modernization. And I kind of wanted this house to be, you know, emblematic of that conflict. And I think I did a pretty good job of it. You know, this house, I thought about making the walls instead of that sort of gray brick. I thought about making them wood. I thought about using like a wood parquet on the floor. But I really thought that the sort of raw concrete and raw brick materials, I thought it fit well. I thought it made the entire house look a little out of place, you know? Definitely like innovative and new, but in that same way, like sort of conflicting with the area around it. So yeah, that was the idea that I went for this house. And I'm pretty happy with the way that it turned out. You see me just sort of detailing, putting decorations on the like living space of the house, the sort of the public section of the house that has the living room, the dining room, and the kitchen. I really love a lot of this new modern furniture that came with the pack. That one rug right there is like big time cool mid-century like atomic age, and I love it. Like it is so good. The other tones that come with it, the like flowery color swatches, those suck. I hate them. They're awful, and I think they're really cheesy. But that one right there, that sort of like blue and salmon thing going on, so cool, so good. Now you see I'm just working on this lanai a little bit, which sort of separates the public and private parts of the house. I made it really, really simple. I thought it would be a nice place for the Sims to just kind of chill. There's no like grill or like bonfire or anything. I wanted this house to be relatively simple, and in that way, like refined. You know, that's kind of what I wanted. I love that sort of crawling, big bushy vine thing that I found in Debug. I put that up against the wall. You see now I'm sort of decorating this little quote unquote dock thing, this platform that sticks out into the sea. Like I said, it's not really a dock. I didn't want to put a boat there. I wanted I thought putting a boat there would put this like there'd be this like massive thing sticking out into the water, and I thought it would sort of like ruin the really like flat, fine, like silhouette of this house against the sand. So it's not a dock. It realistically is just like a jetty, I guess you could call it. That's meant for like sunbathing and jumping into the ocean and stuff like that. Now you see I've transitioned into the sort of private space of the house. So this is made up of 3 rooms. It's like sort of just this one big master suite. That's made up of like a TV room, because there isn't a TV in the living room, a bathroom, and then the bedroom. So right now you see me working on just this little TV room. I wanted it to be something pretty simple. I wanted a nice big TV, but I didn't imagine that anyone would be spending a lot of time in this house, like, watching TV. I mean, obviously, like, a TV I thought would be sort of essential in almost, like, any house I'd be building, because, like, how else are you supposed to be watching movies? Like, you have to watch movies sometimes, you know? But I figured that because this house is in a really, really beautiful environment, like, your Sims aren't going to be spending a lot of time watching TV. They're going to be, like, out swimming and sunbathing and sort of, like, soaking up the environment around them. But a TV room I thought was important. I figured if I lived in this house and there was no way for me to watch my movies, I'd be pissed. So a TV room is in order. I wasn't really sure what, I like to try to pick maybe like 1 or 2 like accent colors for a house. I wasn't sure what I wanted to go with. I was sort of debating between like a green and a blue, for obvious reasons, right? The green sort of meshes with the trees around it, and the blue meshes with the ocean. You see that sort of like, you know, that one like green modern painting that I have in the TV room. I'll change that one to the blue one. I'll finally decide that I want the blue color swatch instead, but it took me a little while to figure out exactly what I was going for there. You see me working on the bathroom now. The bathroom was like a little bit of a struggle. I really wanted a bathtub. I liked the idea of having like a nice big wood bathtub and one of those sort of like outdoor showers, like open air showers, but I couldn't figure out a way to get all of those things, right? A shower, a bathtub, a toilet, and a sink in this little 2x4 area. So eventually I get rid of the bathtub. You don't need a bathtub. There's the ocean. Go swim in the ocean. Like, the world's largest bathtub is like right outside. But this bathroom is pretty simple, you know, again, really straight lines, straight forms, pretty basic in terms of like decoration. I wanted this house to be sleek. I didn't want it to be over cluttered like some of the other houses that I like to build. Modern houses I find can be a little bit of a challenge for me, because the challenge there is to not sort of like over clutter your house. I feel like modern houses should be very sleek, have very fine lines, not like over cramped with stuff. You know, in a modern house I feel like emptiness, right? Empty space has to be used really efficiently, or has to be used in like a sort of a decorative way that you don't have to do in, say, like a Victorian house, which is going to have a lot of stuff all over the place. Yeah, so I struggled a little bit with not over cluttering this house, but I am pretty happy with the way that it turned out. The bathroom in that sense is a pretty simple affair. And so is the bedroom that I'm working on right here. I really love that little space that is formed by like the curving of the rock that peeks into the room. I thought that'd be an awesome place to put like a little chair and an ottoman for you to prop your feet up on and like read or something like that. It just formed like a very natural, like relaxing nook, I guess. Which I thought was cool. You know, another way to integrate indoor-outdoor space is to have your outdoor spaces literally infiltrate your indoor spaces and then dictate sort of like the curvature, dictate the placement of the furniture and stuff like that. So I think this house and its environment, despite their like really sort of conflicting nature, are really harmonious. And I think the bedroom is sort of a really, really good example of how that works. Again, I use that rug that I love, that sort of like mid-century atomic age guy. You see right here, I don't know what happened with the foundation here. For some reason, I was not able to place any items on it, and it would sort of like clip out, you know, so you could like see all the way down through like the terrain. So if you try to put anything there, I don't know if it'll work for you. I don't know if it's something that like went wrong on my lot, or maybe when you import the lot from the gallery it'll actually work, but in my case, like, I couldn't place any objects there. So maybe give it a shot. We'll see how it goes. And that's about it for this build. Pretty simple, really nice, sleek, modern build. I'm super happy with the way this one turned out, and I think it's a good spiritual successor to the one I built in The Sims 3. So thank you everyone for watching. We're walking into some screenshots now, and catch you guys for the next video. Stay safe.